Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a brand new 2024 album review. And this is one of my most anticipated releases for the year. And as you can see by the title, today we're going to be talking about the long-awaited new album from Job for a Cowboy entitled Moon Healer, which is out now through Metal Blade Records. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Job for a Cowboy, they're a death metal band from Arizona. Been around since 2003, so a little over 20 years, going on 21 years. And they've been one of my favorite, pretty much newer modern death metal bands. First heard about them back in 2009 or so. And then they've been putting out albums since their first EP, which was called Doom. And that EP was they were more kind of like stylistically in the deathcore kind of genre. But after that, they switched up and just went to more kind of like death metal with their albums, such as like 2007's Genesis, which is probably like my favorite Job for a Cowboy album, 2009's Ruination, and then I know they had the Gloom EP that came out in 2011 or so. Then 2012's Demonocracy was good, and then their last album, which came out 10 years ago this year, your Sun Eater, I thought that was a really good album. That was like right with that and Demonocracy, they were kind of like going into more kind of progressive territories, and that was it. We had not heard from Job for a Cowboy in over 10 years. I mean, they did some reunion shows after that. I'm honestly still not sure why they took a long break. I think probably just life stuff, I'm guessing. But here we are 10 years later with the release of their new album, Moon Healer. Does this exceed or live up what Sun Eater has? In my honest opinion, I think it definitely has. I think the boys really stepped up their game on here. The production on here is amazing. I think it was worth the 10-year wait, in my opinion. Let's just talk about like the vocals from Johnny Davi. I think his vocals have really improved since the Doom EP. Has the most sickest growls ever, and then his highs are just insane. I just think he's improved a lot as a vocalist. The guitar work on this album is tight from Al Glassman and Tony. Forgive me if I can't even remember his last name, but Al and Tony's guitar playing is really great. Just the riffs they come up with are great, and just the soloing on here is just mind-blowing. The bass playing on this album is pretty good from Nick Shalenjos, who also plays with Havoc. I think, in my opinion, he's one of the most underrated bassists in metal. I think the way he attacks the bass is just really great. And drumming on this album, they have a session drummer, Naveen from Entheos, and he's, in my opinion, one of the sickest drummers I've heard. And I know he also did some session work with Whitechapel on their last album, or The Valley, I should say. So, pretty much rambled on for about 3 minutes. Let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Beyond the Chemical Doorway. Now, this pretty much sets the whole mood for the entire album. Just like the riffing on here, the complex bass lines, and the playing from Naveen on drums is just really great. And this song brings sort of like, almost kind of like classic elements of like the 90s prog death metal, like Slater Death or Atheist and Cynic, into sort of like the newer kind of like era with sort of like an aggressive kind of like edge to it. And this also has a really great guitar solo, which is just mind-blowing, and on top of an already killer song. And I think Beyond the Chemical Doorway is a really great way to start off this album. Next song is Etched into Oblivion. Now, this song has some really great guitar riffs, and just like the way it's like restrained is really great. And then the solo on here is also really big and gives it kind of like an epic, kind of like climactic feel to it. Next song on the album is called Grinding Wheels of Ophanium. Now, this song, right from the get-go, gets your attention with a force, with sort of Mach 9 instrumentation that really just feels so heavy, which hence like the title just really, like the title alone just fits well with the song. Next up is The Sun Gave Me Ashes, So I Sought Out the Moon. Try saying that 5 times fast. Now, this feels like a throwback to like the earlier Job for a Cowboy sound, but there is still like some really great proggy elements that will trip you up, and then the sheer riffing and then the drumming power just really just gets you it's hard to describe it, man, let me tell you. Another really great song, Into the Crystalline Crypts. Now, this song has some really great sections and like instrumentally with the guitar work and then the drumming and I think it's a really great way. And I think it's pretty cool, the placement wise, how the sequencing of the album, like how the songs are placed. I think Into the Crystalline Crypts is really good, especially being like the second half of the album, starting it off perfectly. Next up is A Sorrow-Filled Moon. Another great song with some sick instrumentation and some really sick vocals from Johnny Davi. And like I mentioned before, I think his vocals have improved since the Doom EP till now, in the over almost 20 years. It's just insane. Next up is The Agony Seeping Storm, which I believe was the first single released from this album. And right here, the riffs are really great. And with like the modern technology that is known now, it's just really, you notice like in the musicianship. And then the vocal sections are really great from Johnny. And then the guitar work from Tony and Al are just really great. And I just think it just has some really great tempo shifts, and I feel like the band just picking up where they left off 10 years ago with Sun Eater, and it's just a really great time to be a fan of John for a Cowboy here in 2024. And then we close things out with the Forever Rot, which I thought was a really good way to end this album. And the guitar intro moves into like a really thundering groove, and the bridge in here is great, and then the outro, just like the way it ends the song and this album in general, just brings a layer of like guitar and bass lines anchored by some really sick drumming from Nevi, and I think it's a really great way to end this album. Now overall, Moon Healer by John for a Cowboy, great comeback album, one of the most great albums I've heard so far in 2024, even though we're almost through the end of February. It still could be up there. There could be some more albums to listen to, so who knows. So I'm going to give this album a score. I'm going to give Moon Healer by Job for a Cowboy a solid 10 out of 10. Yeah, this was really amazing. So that's my review of the new Job for a Cowboy album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.